Come on.
I don't know, but I just got a whisper for someone to touch his Worgen hairy nipples.
All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the ICBG WoWCast. I am your host, Rai. One heck of a holy priest, if I may say so myself. I've also got our panel with us. Let's get started with the introductions. First, we've got our GM and that crazy lady who's breaking her own pipes because she just can't get enough of that plumber. It's Shadow Priest Tryhard.
Hey, everyone.
We've also got my Disney friend who's a frost mage and my pal from Georgia who's one hell of an achievement whore. It's Horisha.
Hello, y'all.
We've got the model from our podcast cover art, but don't get too excited, boys. He looks a lot different in real life. It's Fury Warrior Candy.
Yep, it is me.
Now, anyone who knows anything about World of Warcraft knows there's always those guys who will interrupt you when you're on a quest line in another zone, just so you can come see some lore point of interest like Invincible's Grave. Well, I've got that friend. It's Holy Paladin Lucy.
Is this thing on? We're doing this? Okay.
And now to introduce our guild raid leader, I lovingly refer to him as the first lady of the Ice Cream Bikini Girls, and a human encyclopedia on literally all things WoW and all things outside of WoW. It's Snow.
Hi, everybody.
All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're going to go ahead and start like we did last time with our week's recap. Let's go ahead and hear from Try first. Try, what have you been working on this week in game?
I have been slowly making my way to getting my mage class hall mount because I have only got the priest one and I need to get off my butt. So I'm up to doing the Surima quest chains. I think I'm sort of stuck there for a little bit.
Oh yeah, and I know that can be a little not fun because you got to go through that whole quest line before you can really dig into it.
Go through it again.
That's all right though. You'll get there. At least she's doing it, folks.
Flying, so it should be a bit easier, hopefully.
Right. Well, that's fun. We wish you luck with that. It looks like we are currently at 60% with that mage tower, so it'll be up in the next couple days.
Woo-hoo.
All right, Horisha, what you been working on?
Exactly.
Horisha, god damn it.
What? I'm sorry. I took my headphones off for a second.
We're recording. What are you working on?
What did you ask? I'm so sorry.
Oh my god. I just asked, what are you working on this week in game?
Oh, easy. Terragosa again. Pretty much I was able to get the branch of Nordrassel after having to submit a ticket to a Blizzard. They were able to recover the item and send it to me. And then now I'm working on getting 1,000 shards of something, which each boss in Firelands drops about 50 to 65 if I'm doing it on Heroic 25. So another week or two, and then I go back and farm another 250 something others. I'm not sure yet.
Oh boy. Well, this is also you can turn into a dragon that flies really fast, as I read in the description.
Yeah, pretty much. I want to be that one.
Well, great. All right. Thanks for keeping your headset on. Let's go ahead and hear from Candy. What you working on, Candy?
Well, because somebody told me that mounts in Wintergrass were a guaranteed drop, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to head to Wintergrass and get me a free mount. Total fib. Killed him like 5 times. No mount.
Thought it was.
And then I went and ran some a raid on Thursday. Just I don't know why, because I love my guildies and I wanted to be there for them.
Oh, we're touched.
You told me last week.
And other than that, I've been doing beta-ing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Candy's in the beta. Like, I think literally the only time he was not in the beta this week was when he ran Wintergrasp and when he came to Alt Raid on Thursday night.
Yeah. And calls me a slacker every time because I'm not on there with him.
Pretty much.
Total slacker.
Well, Lucy, let's hear from you. What's been going on in game this week?
As far as live goes, just really doing PvP stuff to try to get that prestige appearance. Other than that, I neglected to do my Mythic Plus this week, which is not like me, but
wow.
Yeah.
You still have time.
Well, but I mean, this week it's kind of rough for healers. I mean, Ryan knows this. Is just that Grievous. Once you get into higher keys and stuff, it's really tough.
I mean, it really requires, and Snow, I'm sure you will pipe in on this too, but it really requires, Snow is also one of our raid healers along with me. And I think it kind of requires the dungeon group to be on point with not taking avoidable damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be, but I think the primary problem is most classes that use HOTS have a real problem with Grievous, and it's primarily because their HOTS will just continue to provide that that anti-shield. People like Disc Priests and stuff like that, they get a little bit of a pass this week with that particular mod.
I mean, as a Holy Paladin, I mean, I have a lot of direct healing, so I don't have a whole lot of dots going on. But still, even so, if the tank just thinks, hey, I'm over geared for this place, let's run through it real quick. I mean, he'll pull the whole gang and, get Grievous on everybody just from, just getting hit by unnecessary damage to where I can't heal through it, even with burst. So,
yeah, that's always one of those, like, I call those oh shit moments, and we better hope I have some type of cooldown to use in those moments.
Especially if you're doing like, Rye's favorite, which is Maw of Souls. And, it's Grievous, but it's also Tyrannical Week. So, yay.
Yeah, fuck Harberon. Fuck him.
Hell, even Yimeron is pretty bad. If people just think they can stand in the purple and get feared, I don't know why people think they can do that.
Because they expect the healer to dispel them.
Yeah, I know. It's like the Mage Tower. It's like the Mage Tower scenario.
It's like the Mage Tower all over. Yeah. All right, Snow, let's hear from you, man. What have you been working on this week?
This week, I've been gearing my main for the new expansion that's dropping next month. Oh, sorry, not next month, in August.
How's that been going? I know that this
very slowly.
We're talking about the new main or the main from this expansion?
New main. So
New main.
I'm going to be changing classes to Bear Tank next expansion.
Oh, wow. And that's great. I always love it when you have a talented healer going into a tanking role, because you really kind of understand the needs of that side from the raid, rather than being someone who's like tank only and kind of relying on the healer to be very vocal and to tell them what they need.
The primary reason is so that I can blame Rye for killing me every day.
Yeah. I mean, that'll happen regardless. So, I mean, bring it on. It's always the healer's fault, remember? You're just switching sides now. You're going from being one of us to being one of them.
Yep, that's right.
That's really it. Well, for me this week, I have had a busy week for achievements. I've been kind of pounding out a bunch of old achievements that I just never took the time to do. But I've got one that I'm really proud of this week. I got best friends with all of the tillers, which was super fun. It took me about 1 billion hours of farming those dark soils over in the Heartland. And I was underwhelmed by some of the rewards, but that's all right. I got the achievement. So it was all good. I also learned how to make those noodle carts, which I kind of wished we had like a cooking option, a current day cooking option, which is as fun as those. Just because they are just having those options, like to like wave at people and shoot off fireworks. Like that's like a neat little thing that I wish we kind of still had in the game. I know, Candy, you were telling me all about those, but they are cute. Beyond that, though, I worked a little bit on leveling my monk, my Mistweaver monk. I did some garrison achievements. I got Wingman, only to find out that I need to go do it on 4 more people. And then I also worked on getting my Pally through the Mage Tower, which was a big ass fail. So not even close.
What type of Pally were you doing?
I'm doing it on Ret Pally. I'm sure as hell ain't doing it on Holy Pally.
Come on.
So the Ret Pally challenge is one that, like, Candy said he hasn't even done this one yet, but it's the Fate of the Tide Scorn, and you have to go fight the God Queen, like Skovald's sister, and 2 of her minions, and it's like my Ret Pally is like, I want to say 934 item level. So he's a little over gearing it for like the recommended item level of 910. But it still was tough for me. I'm not used to playing him. It was like doing the Shadow Priest thing all over again. I just don't know it as well as I know Holy Priest. So it'll be a couple more times. But on that note, we'll kind of transition, guys, into current events. And there's really only one big thing going on, and it's Blizzard's announcement this week that very soon we are going to see the Mage Tower go permanently up until the next expansion is launched. So everybody's really excited about that. There will be an unlimited opportunity for getting the Mage Tower between now and August 14th. So actually, I'm sorry, August 13th at, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time?
I am really excited. If you could see my Speedos right now, you could see how excited I was.
Oh, that's uncomfortable to hear.
Oh, no, I want to hear more.
No.
Tell me more,
No.
Candy.
Where I'm at, I need to hear more.
Oh, the Speedos.
The Australian flag is standing tall.
Oh, man.
Nice.
Oh my God, Candy.
Yeah.
This is a family presentation, please. I'm gonna need you to dial it back.
NSFW.
This program is dedicated to the children.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Speaking of dedication, I was demanded that I dedicate this episode to my roommate Molly, who allowed us to use her Mac for some of the sound editing. So since I'm recording, doing a lot of the editing on the Mac, she demanded a shout out. So shout out to Molly. She doesn't play World of Warcraft. She won't ever listen to this, but
She's imaginary.
she's not imaginary. Horisha's met
Hey,
her.
Molly, I've met her.
She talked to Lucy. She talked to Lucy in Discord, so she's not imaginary.
She did talk.
Remember when
Figment
she
of your imagination.
She did.
Was it like one of those? Was it like one of those group hallucinations?
No, it was not. I only gave Horisha a little bit of drugs, but none of them were hallucinatory in the banana bread.
Oh, we all ate the bread.
You did eat my banana bread. My world
Yes,
famous
and
banana
your
bread.
banana bread was
Oh.
awesome.
Not like that community banana bread that those guys sell like around town. Hey, will you buy that?
No, it's not. It's not like what is that? Make-A-Wish banana bread? I don't know what it's for. First off, I don't buy my baked goods from children wrapped in saran wrap off the street. That's just asking for trouble.
They're not even children here. Like where I'm at is not. They're not even children. They're like full-grown men.
Oh yeah, and I've seen that with like the Tupperware tubs of candy.
Yes.
Yeah, no, for the community center that they can't name. Yeah, I've seen that before. All right, so let's jump into our first big topic of the week. I think that since we have Snow in the group as well, this is a really good opportunity to talk about this, since we're not going to always have him available to us, which is really sad. By the way, I had a bone to pick with Snow this week. So he has been our guild raid leader since I joined, and I know well beyond before I joined the guild. But he went from being on every weekend and some weeknights with us to like never being on ever. I know that there are some congratulations in order because I hear he got promoted. So yay, Snow. But I have a bone to pick because I felt like Daddy went out for a gallon of milk and a pack of smokes and never came home again. So I'm glad to have him back, but it's bittersweet because I know he's not going to stay. But with that,
I'm not going to stay.
You're not going to stay until the pre-patch comes out and you got something to do in game. I won't see your ass again. I know how this works. Well, I know you're here right now. But
Ryra is feeling neglected. He needs a bit of love.
I'm feeling like you left me. I feel like I got stood up at the prom. Do you even have prom in Australia?
I thought it was my job.
Kind of. Well, it's differences between Australia and the US. Anyway, we wanted to talk a little bit about running a successful guild and by extension, a guild raid. We have Try as our GM and Snow as our raid lead and also the first lady of the Ice Cream Bikini Girls. I'm going to make that title stick, Snow, especially because you play female cows or moose, which are also called cows, female moose. But we wanted to kind of pick their brains because as all of we know in the podcast, but you may or may not know unless you're in our guild, Ice Cream Bikini Girls has been around since early vanilla. I think we're either the first or second oldest guild on the server. And we also happen to be the second largest for the Horde side on our guild. And we are the, I think, 5th or 6th largest on our server altogether. And it's already a pretty big server for WoW. So having a guild that's got at any given time, like right now online, I think we have about 50 active people. but that's a lone night on a Friday or Saturday. We might have 90 people active or 100 people active, especially if there's a raid going on. I mean, it takes a lot of work and a lot of dedication and organization, at least to me, to keep a group like that going for 13 years now, guys?
Yeah, pretty close to.
So we wanted to kind of pick their brains on, how that works. How did you guys make the decisions that you made to organize the guild? What do you think over the years has been some of the more successful changes in managing a guild of this size and of this activity? What are some things, that you learned from past mistakes that were pitfalls to avoid? Try, if you want to take the floor, let's have you kind of talk about just, the history and what the experience has been like.
Well, I am not an original member of the guild. I did play in vanilla. I met the guild master and his wife in real life, and they introduced me to the game, so it's all their fault, but they already had the guild set up. And it was basically pretty much, we could play WoW to escape our lives, and sometimes they're not the best, so to try have fun and be positive sort of was always the thing, and everyone seemed to help everyone, and it still does, which is good. So that's sort of how I was introduced to it. And when I became GM is because the husband and wife decided to have kids and they got busy and stuff. I'm like, I don't want to take it over. Responsibility, I don't want it, but I think it's been good. Definitely more responsible. But it's definitely, I rely a lot on all the guild members, but especially the officers, just to keep an eye on everything, to make sure everything's running smoothly, to help out, because I'm not on 24/7, unlike some people.
Like Candy, you mean?
Candy's been running beta.
Yeah, but he's in beta, so it doesn't count. He doesn't see what's going on in guild.
I see.
He sees all. Well,
Yeah,
and
so
I mean,
there's many ways to run a guild as well, because some people are very like, the GM has to run every single group, and the guild's never done that. It's always like, if you want to run a group, that's fine. We'll help you. We'll help advertise it, pop it in the calendar, let everyone know. Because some guilds, when it's one person running everything, it's like no one can have their own ideas and do things. So I like that. We do a lot of PvP, we do raiding, we do achievement nights. There's all these different things going on all the time.
Oh yeah, I don't know anybody that hosts any events with the guild, ever. Never.
Right.
It's funny. I actually have taken on our guild's alt raid, which is super fun. It's my first time ever raid leading something, so I had to pick Snow's brain a ton. And with that, let's kind of transition into the raiding side of it, because I think with any type of guild situation, you have to recognize you're dealing with multiple types of players. You've got your hardcore raiders, you've got your hardcore PvPers, you've got your people who are like kind of into everything, folks who are just like into dungeon running, achievement whores like Horisha, just general whores like Horisha. So you have to, dial that back. She didn't hear me insult her, but I'm all right with that. So like on the rating side of things, Snow, like what do you think makes a great core raid? What's been your strategy for getting and keeping the best core raiders? What are some suggestions you might make for other raid leaders who kind of have to balance out their teams? Like I know we want to be inclusive, but we also want to progress. So how do you kind of balance that type of stuff out? Like what goes into managing a successful raid?
So the first thing to remember is that people will only volunteer for the raid. So you have to make sure that people are enjoying themselves. Otherwise, you'll get people who quit because they're bored, or they will quit because they're not advancing, or they will quit because people aren't being nice to them. So the key initial factor is to have a guild that's quite supportive of new players, as well as to create a positive environment, so where people are willing to continue playing with you. The next part is to make sure that the people who are doing it understand what kind of a commitment they're making. So most people will commit to a couple of weeks, maybe a month, and then they'll drop out, or they haven't worked out for themselves how long they're going to have to commit to a particular raid group. The next one is you got to balance people's personalities. So people will have different personalities, and there'll be conflicts between people because they have very different ideas of what a raid should be. And as the raid leader, you have to have a fairly clear vision of where you want the raid to be and what you want the raid to be. And then the last one is, as a raid leader, your secondary job is to listen to everyone else's opinion. Even if you don't go through with what people say, at least you've got to give them a voice. Otherwise, they'll quit on you as quickly as they possibly can because it feels like they're not getting any kind of say in where anything is going.
So, like, I think the overall theme of what you were saying was inclusion. That sounds like the big thing.
Yeah, so you make it an inclusive environment. You also make it a supportive environment. So if people screw up, it's not a good idea to lambast them or take them to task, particularly in public, because not only is that a bad idea from a leadership perspective, but it's also a bad idea in terms of maintaining someone's intent to raid with you. So if you criticize them too heavily in public, then you will see them leave you straight away or very, very soon afterwards.
Yeah, and people come and go with that type of situation. But I think we've also been very blessed. We have gotten a good group of core raiders that kind of stuck around. I know we lost some people towards the very, very, very end of the X-Pack, but we've been lucky. It looks like Lucy was about to jump in.
Well, I mean, those people will be back. I mean, it just sounds like the main thing is try not to ostracize in front of everyone. Have constructive criticism instead of just ostracizing.
Yep, and the same goes for if you're trying to adjust particular tactics or something inside of a raid, it's always a good idea to try and encourage people to come up with ideas. The balance is in that you have to maintain control. So you have to make sure that people know that when you make the call that they're going to follow it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you as the leader would be your, the final say as yours.
And I think that's kind of something that, like, in my experience, has always been a very well balanced with our group. And one thing I love about you, Snow, in particular, not to, butter you up for next expansion, but here comes some butter, is that you give feedback. If someone's not doing something well or someone is doing something well, especially if they're doing it well, you're giving them feedback, which I think is just as important. It's like kind of like work. I expect my boss to tell me when I'm doing something right, or at least every once in a while.
Yep, and that's always a good idea to try and conclude a raid on a positive note, even if you've been bashing your head against the boss for the last 4 hours or whatever it is.
What? Who said
It's
that?
always that. Yeah, so you're always trying to create a positive atmosphere, particularly towards the end of the day with the raid. People going away exhausted is fine so long as they've gotten something out of it or there's some kind of improvement that everyone can see. And as a raid leader, that's something that I normally think about towards the end of the raid to make sure that we've actually had some kind of progress, even if it's minor progress, or there's something to alleviate the tension on people. So you're trying to create that positive environment the whole time.
Coven is evil.
Trinity
Yeah,
of
it
bitches.
is. The Trinity of bitches. So there's one thing that we've kind of cleverly avoided in this talk, guys, and I'm going to dig into it because I know that it happens in every guild, and I really did want to ask is, how do you guys, as I'm going to say an executive board, handle guild drama when it arises? I know we try not to get too involved, but what's the best way for a aspiring GM or an aspiring raid lead to deal with drama?
Well, some of the drama I found is primarily just miscommunication. Like someone's saying something they mean as a joke, but then the other person takes it seriously, and then it builds up and builds up. So sometimes you can deflate it quite fast. Other times it does take time for people. It just depends on the situation and what it is. I know that with Proudmoore, we are known as the gay server, the rainbow server. So a lot of people have issues using certain words.
Oh, yeah.
So that's caused a bit of drama because some people are very accepting of those words and others are like, no. So, yeah, it depends on the situation. Generally, the guild's all pretty good. Like, politics we normally don't try to talk about because it normally resorts to name calling and things like that. So we try, get them to go onto Discord. There's a channel there they can have a chat about whatever they want to because no one wants to hear all these people yelling at each other, and some people are very over politics. So that's some examples.
Well, I think probably trying to get the people into a room so they can discuss their problem together with some parental supervision will sometimes help it. but not always. But usually, I mean, that's probably one of the better ways to fuse a thing is just confront the issue right now.
Yeah, and as officers, one of the key things is that if there is ongoing or drama that has escalated to the point of becoming a toxic environment of some description, the officers will actually discuss it as a special meeting, or will discuss it in a sort of a quorum to try and resolve it, or to come up with the guild's official position regarding particular activity.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like that's having to happen too much with us, thank God. But it's good to know. I know that this sometimes, especially in smaller guilds, I think that's kind of one of the benefits we have as a larger guild. But in the smaller guild, I think drama can make or break your guild experience. And I know some of our listeners are coming from smaller guilds, even though they should totally come and join us.
Yay, come play with us.
Oh yeah, the plug hasn't even happened yet. We're gonna plug it at the end. All right, so we're going to move on from this. Thanks, guys, for the 2 cents on that. I really appreciate it. It's great to kind of hear how you guys have been running 2 very successful groups, both the guild and the raid, and ones that kind of have lasted the test of time where many, many other guilds failed. We're going to transition over to something a little bit more fun. We have a new segment that we are going to kind of bring up here. I call it Horisha on Assignment. Horisha on Assignment. It's basically where we're going to give Horisha a task in-game, and we're going to have her talk about her experience doing it. If you remember from last week's episode, Horisha came to the table wanting to know a little bit more about what ERP was. And this week, actually live right now, we have Horisha on a character in the Alliance territory in Goldshire, kind of playing around with it. So Horisha, how's it going over there?
I walked in and promptly, evidently, needed to take my clothes off. And
where was this? Where was this?
I'm in the inn, Lions Pride Inn, and I just learned what pegging was.
What is what?
Pegging.
Pegging.
Like
What the hell is pegging?
Up the ass.
What? Who? What? I mean, I know what it is, but
And the like the people in the bedroom. There's so many people downstairs, and you go upstairs and you wander around the bedroom, and like there's like this big organ and a human, and they're doing things unnatural.
Like what?
The human is laying on her backside. The organ is on top, and evidently she is entertaining him by playing the skin flute.
I don't even know how that's possible in game, but all right. You'll have to take some screenshots.
It is
for
possible now.
Wow. The skin flute. Have you tried it yet, or are you just kind of being a casual observer?
No, I can't find anybody to do anything with. I've just sat there and read, and I'm not really interested in doing anything with anybody because they're all probably 60-year-old old bald men, and that's not my type. But I've got the mods, and nothing is really happening other than the inn is crowded with people. It's worse than freaking Dowran.
I am not bald.
I did not call your name out.
It's okay to call him bald. He called you old this week.
Candy.
Remember?
I did not call her old. You did.
I did not. You put words in my mouth.
Well, oh my gosh, that's what all these people want to do is put words in your mouth. And it's just talking about whose boobies are bigger and who's going to do what with who. And I'm kind of scared.
Yeah, so I thought, as Lucy explained it last week, and Lucy, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's got to be a background story for your character.
Well, and that's what, I'm here in with her. I came over here with her just to try to get.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, yeah, she doesn't quite know what she's doing, and it's kind of if you've never role played before, I mean, it's kind of rough to get into just because I got her the add-on. She's got to kind of come up with who her character is, what the background is for her character and stuff like that.
My character is naked dancing on a table. What more can you ask for?
Well, that's the thing though, is that, you know, there's like, we're standing in the inn. There are a ton of people here. You know, 90% of them are naked or unclothed and stuff like that. So, but you can't just jump into ERP with somebody. If you have a story, most of the time somebody will pick you up. And actually, were you following somebody around just a second ago, like asking them, how do you do this?
Yeah, for a minute. Yeah.
Stuff like that. If you find a male character, he'll actually, like, you know, take you under his wing, I guess, and like try to teach you.
He didn't.
That's another kind of gateway into it. But like I was telling you, not just upstairs. Upstairs is like, you know, they're trying to do their own thing in the bedroom area. But downstairs is where some of the more crazier S&M kind of stuff happens, down in the cellar. But
yeah, I'm kind of watching what they're doing, and I see a few of the yells and whatnot, and
yeah,
kind of not sure about this.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to have the add-on to try to see, you know, what they're actually saying, because most of the time they won't do it in say chat or yell or even emote.
And I've got the add-on, and nothing is showing up on my add-on. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, or if I'm just a big old fat human that they don't like. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm sure they like you.
Yeah, there's a lot of ins and outs to it, but I mean, you know, the longer you stay here and like try to chat with folks and stuff like that, you know, the more action you'll get. But
some of the names in here.
Oh yeah. Like what?
What was the one you saw earlier?
Oh, it was a human, a female human. She was running around, and her name was "Fart on Me, Please."
Yeah.
I was like, what? She was just sitting on the bed, and her name was "Fart on Me, Please." I was like, you got to come over here.
That's
this is kind of scary here.
Well, this guy's name is straight up Harry Balls. Like, what is that? Like, come on.
No, but I just got a whisper for someone to touch his Worgen hairy nipples.
Ooh, Snow, are you in Goldshire?
What the hell do I do with that shit?
Okay.
Well, sounds like I should be there.
/leak.
With that note, we're gonna press on. Horisha, let us know if anything fun pops up. But thank you for being a good sport about this. I promise when we send you on the next assignment, we'll pick something really fun for you to do.
Something with clothes on next time.
Something with clothes on next time, but something that doesn't make your husband send you a text and be like,
He's
"What?"
Downstairs, he doesn't know.
Hello, good luck.
To the next podcast.
To the next podcast.
Hey there. I just wanted to take a moment to remind you, dear valued listener, that our guild, the Ice Cream Bikini Girls, is always looking for new recruits. If you want to be part of a kick-ass group that's built on respect and mutual shared fun, then we're totally for you, provided that you aren't an asshole. We don't like those too much. If you want to check us out and maybe try running something with the group, just whisper any member of the guild online for more info. We're a US Horde guild on the Proudmoore server. We can't wait to meet you.
Let's transition. I know this is something we also talked about a little bit more in our setup this evening, but there's been a lot of questions raised about dungeon etiquette as of late, because as we all kind of know, Legion kind of foobarred, I think, a lot of the way dungeons have been traditionally run. And the cheese may stand alone, guys, so feel free to jump in if you disagree. But for me personally, especially as a healer, I noticed that the kind of status quo has changed a little bit in how the groups are run, how things are pulled, how fast we do it, whose pace we're following. Like, I know that, you know, the goal is obviously to get in and get out, especially in a pug group, in a dungeon. But it seems like Legion kind of enabled the ability to just, especially with tanks and self-heals being so crazy this expansion, it's kind of made it so that, like, the healer's obsolete unless it's really difficult content. And even when the healer's not obsolete, it's kind of like the healer's job is to be as fast as humanly possible running through the dungeon. That's both in leveling with all the changes they've made and also, you know, current content. I haven't been able to loot a corpse as a healer in like forever. Is anyone else feeling this way, or is it just me?
Well, I think, you know, you're kind of looking at heroic dungeons that are past tense. It's basically get in there, get your, whatever reward you're going to get, and get out. I think things are going to change a bit in when BfA goes live, but right now it's just people just don't want to play they don't want to go slow. They just want to get there and get out. And if the tank's going to pull everything in the dungeon, kill them all, then most people are fine with it.
I mean, that's kind of why they changed that, where if you couldn't loot, it would be sent to your mailbox, because they knew that was happening already.
Well, it only works on boss fights, though, Lucy.
But
you don't get mail loot from trash.
Yeah, and that's where you would go out and do world quests for stuff, or you would have to actually farm nodes or go fishing and stuff like that, or for cloth and stuff like that too. You'd have to kill mobs outside. But yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. They do that all the time, and they've been doing that. I mean, even in Draenor, they were doing that. They just would run through stuff because the self heals were insane.
Well,
But,
I don't even think it's Legion exclusive. So like, I will flat out say that I got into this you and I, Lucy, when we did that dungeon with Horisha that one time, Scarlet Halls. I mean, you were tanking, I was healing. And I know you were deaf in the Discord, but we talked about it in party chat, where I said, like, I intend on looting things as we go through this dungeon, so be careful with the chain pulls. Like, I don't feel like, as a healer especially, I should have to say that. The tank should kind of be watching, not commenting on you, of course, but the tank should kind of be watching to make sure the healer's keeping pace, especially in a leveling dungeon. I know someone, we talked about this previously, and someone said, you don't need anything off of that trash. But like, the way I'm thinking about it is it really okay for the tank and melee DPS to like get all the loot, since they're at the body they just killed? They can loot it real quick before they jump on, but the ranged and healers have got to like forego loot to keep pace with the tank. Like, is that really okay? Or is that just kind of the current environment?
No, it's the way the game is now. Just because, I mean, some of those mats and stuff like that, they made it to where you can just jump into current content stuff as far as professions go. So you don't even have to start at the beginning anymore. So a lot of that loot is kind of irrelevant anymore. So they kind of just took that out altogether. But I mean, like I think you were trying to get some stuff, some cloth and everything. You were farming something for a profession, I believe.
I don't remember what I was doing, but I just remember being like, well, I watched you all loot it. It's my turn. Like, I intend on right-clicking on this corpse after you have done it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, as far as like leveling and stuff, I mean, even if I do loot the corpse and stuff, most of that actually, probably about 100% of it actually, just goes to the vendor. I don't even use it.
Well, yeah, but that's gold.
Yeah, true. But I mean, gold.
Maybe the cheese stands alone, like I said.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to get much gold out of a past tense dungeon anyway. You're actually going to get silver.
Every copper counts, silly people.
Thank you, Try. So, Try, are you on board with what I'm saying here? Like we deserve as ranged people to loot, right?
Well, when I used to heal, I'd just go really slow, and sometimes I'd say, if you go in there and pull before I'm there, I'm going to let you die, or I'm not going to run to get in there. And the tanks don't like it, and sometimes they try to get you vote kicked, but then the other guys are like, I'm with the healer, so you get saved.
Well, that's what kind of happened with us, is that he said he was looting, so I was going to try to slow down. Well, in that little courtyard area of Scarlet Monastery, there's a lot of mobs just like walking around, a lot of pats going. And I just kind of went out there and I pulled a couple, and I'm like, okay, I'm in a safe spot. Wrong. There was another DPS in our group that backpedaled into another group. So I ran over there to pull that. And I assume at this point where I was like, yeah, I'm not healing this. I told him, and I died.
Well, so I think what happened was I turned around and I'm like, my whole party is gone. I've literally been looting for like 10 seconds. I'm not even talking like a long time. Whole party's off in the next room. And I get to the next room and it's like Pullmageddon has happened. I look and I see more mobs. Like, I don't even see the members of my party. There's so many mobs swarming on them. And I was like, nope, this is a wipe. and it was. But it's just I find like in the old dungeons, especially now that I'm leveling on a healer, but I'm also leveling that warrior as well. I think the old dungeons take a lot more strategy than basically as the tank. You kind of have to pull in a way, and correct me if you feel different. But like you have to pull in a way where you don't leave a lot of room for your group to screw up the accidental pulls. Like you pull out of the room if you can, whenever possible. Is that kind of like a better strategy for someone who's going through and doing it?
So historically, that used to be the case anyway. That you would have to use CC and line of sight back in the older dungeons in order to actually do them successfully. And it's one of the skills that they've basically ignored since Legion dropped, which is to use line of sight pulling.
Yeah.
And a lot of groups can't. The tanks don't even know how to, or DPS don't know to keep themselves back because they've got that speed run mentality now, which makes it so much harder to control mobs as well as to make successful pulls.
Well, and that's along the lines that basically a lot of people, they made a tank in Legion because, it's easy to play now. It's pretty much face rolling when you start going back into older stuff, or when you're running heroic dungeons in Legion, and they don't know another way. So they're just going to, build a new tank, and they're going to go try to speed run every dungeon. You know what? Hey, I'm level 30. I'm going to speed run this dungeon. And then they get smushed. And of course, it is the healer's fault. But the other problem is that a lot of the tanks really don't know their role, which is going to come to light a bit. Well, you have no idea what's going to happen in beta. But right now, there's a lot of tanks that don't really know how to play their role.
Well, Candy, we can talk about it as far as beta goes, and this because you've done a ton of heroics in beta. But as far as the tanking goes, it's kind of similar to Legion is right now. But it's a little bit different, and I think once it goes live, it's going to be a lot different just because of the gear that we're at now versus what they give you in beta. But it's still going to be, the face roll that it is. It's just that tanks don't have as much self heals as they have in Legion, just because the weapon's gone, and that was a big crutch in Legion for a lot of people, just period.
Well, the weapons and the legendaries are gone, which,
Right.
A lot of it carried a lot of the tanking that went on in Legion. But
so I want to follow that train of thought for a second. So because we also haven't addressed the BfA threat reduction as well, because we all know that's a big thing. They reduced the tank's ability to hold threat. But I did a BfA dungeon this past week, my first BfA dungeon, and I did another one as well. And I will say that I immediately noticed that it was harder as a healer. I know that like not having my our weapon and not having my pet with me as a holy priest kind of made a big difference. But I will say I immediately noticed that tanks were having a harder time pulling. Like they were pulling too much and the group was getting overwhelmed far faster than it was happening in Legion.
Oh, yeah.
And I really do think that Blizzard is taking it back to taking dungeons and general gameplay back to the root, back to some of the more old school, not the full on like Snow was talking. You need to CC, but you have to have some strategy, or at least a little bit of strategy before you go running into a room. Because if you don't, the group's going to wipe.
Even now, like if you do, let's say you do Halls of Valor, on anything higher than a 10, there's some of those packs in there that you have to CC to get it through it. Because if you don't have the burst heals or just everybody using, defensives, it's going to hurt and you're going to die. So you have to CC some of that stuff even now. And it's the same thing in BfA. Doing like something like the Mother Load, if anybody's in beta, is just that there's so many mobs and so many packs in there, and they do so much stuff. They silence, they stun. You're going to have to, maybe CC a couple of them, take out the ones that are a bigger threat, and then move on. And it's going to take a little bit of getting used to, but it all comes down to like a gear check thing. Because even in Legion, the more gear that you have, the easier it's going to be. You won't even have to CC anymore. So we're going to hit that threshold, closer to the end of BfA, I would say, when you're doing higher keys.
Well, also the other thing that goes in line is that it's also up to the spec of tank. Right now, there's kind of like a hierarchy of tanks. There's
Right.
tanks that are really good at holding threat. The warrior is incredible at holding threat, and the DK is incredible at holding threat. And then you have like the paladin, which is just abysmal, cannot hold threat. I mean, you got to like take a nap after he pulls, count to 1,000 or count to 10,000 or something like that, and like, okay, maybe I can go in and start whacking on shit. You charge in there, woohoo! I'm a fury warrior. I'm going to zoom in there and smack stuff, and blap, I've got threat on everything. And then slightly above that would be the druid, which is still a great tank, right? They can take a lot of damage and all, but they don't have the same kind of threat generation for whatever reason. Like Thunderclap and Gorfine's Grasp are like the greatest things in the game right now. And then you have the DK, the Demon Hunter, which once again, they do a lot of DPS, great heals, but they don't handle threat nearly as well as the warrior and the DK. But that comes with a caveat, right? Warriors are glass, right? They'll charge in, they'll get every single mob attracted to them, they will not lose threat, and then they will die. So basically, you're stuck with the same problem, is that you are now, the Fury Warrior, you're going to tank for like 2 seconds, and then everybody else is going to take their turn at tanking, and you're going to wipe. The only class that's really super strong in all areas is the DK. Their self heals, they seem kind of crumbly. They're the same today as they were, in Legion. They're the same in BfA Beta. Is that they're scary because they're actually crumbly, but they got a lot of self heals and a lot of shielding, and it's like you can see the guy, his health's like an nth away, a pixel away from death, and he's full health, and it's not the healer, so. Right now in the game, the DK is pretty much the best tank, and then the warrior is pretty much the worst tank. The usual position, and in between there lies the other three. You got the monk, the druid, the paladin, and the demon hunter. Demon hunter would probably be the second best ish, followed by the druid, followed by the monk, and then the paladin warrior are just abysmally bad right now. The paladin can't hold threat, and the warrior just crumbles. So some classes can zoom in, grab everything, and you're fine. Other classes can, you got to wait for a few seconds, or you got to dump heals on them or whatnot. They're all viable, just some are more viable than others.
What have you been seeing as far as trends, Candy, on the healer side? Because I know you've been doing a lot of dungeons.
Yeah, for right now, monk healers are probably the best, followed by disc priests, if they're aware, right? A disc priest is really good with their shields, and plus they got a good amount of healing going on. They can keep everybody up. And then it seems like all the other healers, well, druids are also, they're still fine, right? They throw their hot in the middle of the fight.
They're never going to have a problem on druid healing. But
then you get down into the holy priest, paladins, whatnot, and they just have a terrible time, and especially because people are still playing with the Legion, Mop, Draenor mentality, that, classes that aren't as mobile as others, like, disc priests and monks are very mobile, but you get down to holy priests aren't so mobile, and they got to do a setup, and they got to get going. They got to get their heels rolling, and unfortunately the tanks aren't really willing to wait on this. So basically, what you see is a lot of vote to kick. And sometimes it's to the point right now where a holy priest shows up in a group, and the first thing they do is vote to kick him and wait for the next healer.
Yeah. I hope that doesn't happen to me. I know that at least on Holy Priest, a lot of the instant cast toolkit that they've got, especially for the cast on the move, is either a hot or it's got a long cooldown. I know on disc they made things a lot more mobile by taking the cooldown away from Power Word Shield, which I'm interested to see kind of how that changes the game on the disc side. But I know it's going to be a little different for them because Power Word Shield was also reduced in its efficiency a bit. So we need to see as we go along. Thanks, guys, for the insight on that. I got one final little thing to point out is Try. I think I won a bet with you when you and I talked about this. but there was going to be some debate over whether or not Blizzard was going to introduce its communities feature as part of the beta, and it looks like they have. So I wanted to take a few closing minutes to talk about that real fast and what we think about that. If for those of you guys that don't know, it looks like Blizzard is adding in a feature in game where your guild will have voice chat embedded for the guild, like one big general voice channel embedded right into the game now. So you can just join and do push to talk with your guild in the middle of the game. How are we feeling about that? I know we're a Discord guild. And I personally will also jump it out with saying I prefer Discord over the idea of doing voice chat in game, because knowing Blizzard is still has WoW as a one core processing game, I think adding that voice process into the main game is going to cause some lag. But how are you guys feeling about that, the prospect?
Well, you're completely right on Blizzard. They need to. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they can actually put a core processor ability into the game without rebuilding the whole game. I don't know if they can do that, because basically everything that Blizzard does causes lag, and do not get rid of Discord or whatever third party voice chat you're using, because right now, I mean, the in-game voice chat is either broken, it's not it's not up, or when it is up, it's just it just causes lag. I mean, it basically, when you log in, your computer will freeze for like 10 seconds.
You can't even move.
Yeah, you can't move. And, and every time somebody talks, it's like your cast times go up dramatically. So, I mean, it's still what it is with Blizzard and their voice chat. They should just come up with a third-party chat that you can add on, instead of trying to make it in game, unless they go with like a quad core or greater kind of CPU functionality.
Yeah, I mean, that day that you got into the beta, Rye, was the day that they were actually trying to start that up, and you saw the lag that made everybody do. The cast times were like 10 seconds, just standing there, endlessly cast, because they had turned it on. Well, then
I saw that, for the record. I saw that for about 5 seconds before I said "fuck this," and then I completely alt F4'd.
Yeah, well, that night they turned it off, and then it's been off ever since. Every time I get on there, it's off. Now, as far as the community stuff goes, like, you can talk with your guild and stuff. It's just voice chat is gone.
Well, and it looks like you're going to be able to join multiple communities. Like, you could have one guild, but you can join like other groups in the game that will have their own community kind of page that they can create. So for me, I see this as both a win and overcomplicating it. I mean, we already have like an epic number of guilds that have been inactive in WoW for how long? I mean, like, I looked through Group Finder and they're still talking about, or Guild Finder when I was looking for this guild back in the day. But I remember looking through Guild Finder and seeing there were guilds that were still talking about like Pandaria stuff in their Guild Finder description with 2 members. So, I mean, obviously they're not active anymore. So, I mean, I think this is just going to create another medium for community creation that's going to make things a little bit more complicated. So, I'm kind of loosely hoping we're not going to see that brought to the main game. With the launch of BfA, I think they need to hold that one back, perfect it a bit more, maybe improve the process and ensure a reduction of lag. Because again, not every WoW player is on a $2,000 gaming rig. I mean, so some of us are on regular people computers.
Yeah, one of the things to remember is this is their 3rd attempt at this.
Oh yeah. When the first one was when that Kata, they brought it out
before.
Oh, really?
So they made an attempt at this in Lich King.
I don't because I knew when it first came out. I just knew it was terrible. We were still using Ventrilo way back in the day.
Yeah, so the first attempt was at Lich King just before they started work on Kata, so just before they started bringing Kata out, and then the second attempt was during Kata, and it was still terrible. So this is their third shot.
Remind me, it was super minimalist back in the day. Like, it was just like a little like chat bubble that you would see on your screen, and it would light up when someone was talking.
Yeah, it was only for group, so it was like for your 5-man dungeoning and stuff like that. And I think they started doing testing for raid, but it was absolutely terrible. Which is interesting considering that, mentioning in another game here, Overwatch has a functional voice system.
Overwatch runs with quad core though, and that's the problem with World of Warcraft, is that it's single core, so they can't assign different functions to different cores of the CPU. Everything goes through one bottleneck and it gets stuck.
Yeah, I mean, my personal bet would be that if they wanted to make it function properly, is to create like a virtual session, so a secondary add-on, a feature that you can turn on and off that activates a second core and assigns it for voice.
I mean, I think we'll see, but if history is repeating itself as it seems to be, it looks like they're going to probably dial this feature back, and that's what I'm hoping. I'd rather see them introduce it and do it right the first time than introduce it again and have it be another cluster. I also really don't personally. I worry about the implications in game as well. So I think what you're going to see is if you include that voice chat option, you're going to have groups kicking random people because they simply don't want to talk, or someone with it opens the door to harassment when every random group has got a voice channel, and I think that's a slippery slope. We already have issues with, so once a woman is identified as a woman, you see men harassing them half the time in game. If girls played WoW, try.
Girls don't play WoW. Voice mod.
Yeah.
It's a voice mod. She's actually a dude. But I mean, I think you're going to see a lot more hostility in game as well if they keep that voice chat function in there, and groups it'll be a lot harder to get into a group. You better be on a microphone and talking, essentially.
Yeah. Especially in like normals, heroics, stuff like that. Yeah, it's going to be bad. But
sorry, man.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so again, mentioning Overwatch is a thing in comp, so like PvP, I believe that they'll probably start kicking people from PvP zones and PvPing if they don't have mic.
Oh, if it was a random BG and you have that active, oh my goodness, there's no way. There's no way anybody could get a word in edgewise.
Well, I guess we'll see how that develops. Well, with that being said, guys, we're going to start wrapping it up as we are at the 55-minute mark. We do want to thank everybody for sticking with us today. We will go ahead and remind everyone that we are officially on iTunes and Google Play. Yay! So you can subscribe to us on Google Play or the iTunes Store on your iDevice. We are also active on both SoundCloud and YouTube, so please subscribe, leave us some comments and some feedback. And then we will have our Discord going public here in the next episode or two. I did want to make note that we did lose Horisha towards the end of this episode. It looks like she's having some internet trouble, so she wanted me to say goodbye, y'all, and then she went to the kitchen to make another drink. To get herself ready for some bedtime. So that'll be awesome. We wish Horisha a good night. We'd like to thank our panel, as always, for joining us, and also to thank Snow for joining us for the first time.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We love having you. We look forward to bringing you back again. But until then, let us know what you think in the comments, and we will see you guys next time on the ICBG WoWCast. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye, Lucinos.
Love you.
Okay, are we done?